fully, viable, the lower the risk. Plus, it's a lot easier when you assess the project, whether that is viable or not, because we're not super scientists and we, especially in fringe tech. So you decrease the risk, but you also still have that crazy exponentiality. And we are hunters for great exponential cases. We're not hunters for already realized cases, right? So TR 5 to 7 seems to be the sweet spot with a handful of exceptions. And the third one, and the mother of all rules, is the power law of VC investing. So this is probably the most important thing. I will keep stressing this out over and over. So what does that mean, the power law? So instead of being a bit of a distribution that is the same way that we saw for the diffusion of technology, where it's a bell curve, the middle has the highest number of occurrences, it is exponential, meaning the more to the left, the more, exponential it gets. So the problem of the power law is people perceive it as a linear curve, that it's much more progressive. But the actual fact is that it is much more exponential than people think. So I'm going to try to illustrate the power law, taking mainstream examples. The wealth distribution in the West, same in the US or most nations, the top 1% and the top 0.1% is exponentially wealthier than the rest. The richest 1% of the world is off the charts compared to the rest. Here's another example. The number of times that the and a is used in the English language, and it's in every language, it is exponentially more used than the rest of the words combined. Here's another example, website distribution. So if you look at the web, Google and YouTube are exponentially more used than all the other websites combined. Google is just used by 90% of the world and so many more times than the rest of the websites. And this keeps happening over and over. The power law rules the world. The number of YouTube views. So the number of YouTube, if you take PewDiePie or T-Series, they're exponentially more viewed than the rest of the YouTubers. And then if you look at, the videos that they produce, some of them return 90% of their own views, right? So for example, if you take a single video, and this is the case in marketing, they will all tell you, singers. So I have an artist here, friend here, and he said, well, I've been producing hundreds of songs, but there's one that becomes a one-hit wonder. It returns 90% of my views. So it keeps happening over and over. And Sid says, it's like the Pareto principle, which is 80-20, but it's even more exponential than that. So you're exactly right. And why do we care? Why do we care for VC? It's actually because it's been demonstrated that one deal that returns 10x, let's put it this way, the funds that really outperform and they do 5x return on investment tend to have a huge proportion of that return driven by a 10x deal, as opposed to those funds that underperform, that have a sort of equally distributed. So they underperform because they didn't hit that unicorn, they didn't hit that mega returner. So if you want to be in a winning territory, all you need to focus on is to chase that unicorn.